So this video is going to show us how to mark the quiz, as well as what the statistics and data will show us to help inform our teaching practice. So I'm going to look at one of the quizzes that my students wrote earlier this semester. And I'm going to I'm going to left click on the arrow and then click on grade. And what that is going to give me, it's going to allow me to see how the students did. Now, in this particular test, I have some short answer questions. So I'm going to click on the questions, and I'm also going to click on blind marking. This ensures that I don't have bias when I'm marking their short answer questions. And I go down to the written responses, and I click on this, and it allows me to be able to mark their questions very easily. So the question is, what is the purpose of accounting? And I can give them marks. And so I can quickly go through each one, save and continue, and it allows me to go through each one. Now I noticed here that this student did not get, if the student didn't get perfect, I can provide some feedback here. So often what I do is the feedback tends to be the same for a number of students. So I'm able to copy that feedback and I can then paste it into other students. So again, I've got the same student, another student who only got 1 out of 2. And again, I can just paste that information and then save and continue. And it ensures that too, just because I know the student's name and I know, let's say, that they, that I think that they're really, a nice student, I might maybe give them extra marks just because I feel like I know them really well. This prevents that from happening. It ensures that there's no bias when I'm marking. Once I have that done, I can go back to the questions, and if I want to blind mark the second question, I can go here. But maybe this time I don't want to blind mark it, but I'm not going to change that here because I don't want you to see how the students did per se, or see the names of the students. So again, same type of thing. I can just continue to mark it, and it actually is quite easy to mark because I'm marking the same question over and over and over again without having to flip through any paper. So once I've done marking the test, I can then go to the users and see how they did individually, and this is where I can get the information to be able to put into my mark book. Now I'm not going to scroll down any further, but because I do have real students who have written this test and I want to maintain their confidentiality. But a couple of things here. If a student has written a test and let's say they didn't do very well and I want to give them a second chance, I can also delete their attempt and allow them to write again, or I can change the number of attempts that they're allowed to write. Either way, both will work, depending on what's easiest for you and what you remember how to do. Once I've got the test marked or the quiz marked, I can then go to statistics, and this is my favorite part of the quiz tool. Very quickly, I can see the distribution of the marks on this particular quiz, and this quiz here has a nice distribution of a normal distribution, but I can see too if some students have done really poorly. And then it gives me the results of each student down below. I'm not going to show you that because it has student names beside it. If I go to question statistics, this shows me that I've got 2 questions where less than 50% of the students answered those questions correctly. So this tells me that I need to probably go and look and see why those students answered the question in that way and maybe reteach that topic. So it shows me each question and the percentage of students that got it right. So we can see here there's lots of questions where students did really well. But question number 10 here, only 33% of the students actually answered it correctly. So let's dig a little deeper and see why. So I can see the question here. If I click on it, it tells me what the question is. And I see it's about legal entity. So maybe I need to reteach that. But to better inform me, I can go back up to the top, go to question details, and here it's going to show me how they answered the question, what percentage of students answered A, B, C, or D. So I go down to question 10, and I can see here that the form of business ownership that is itself a legal entity is, and 10 students answered it correctly, but the majority of students, 51%, said all the answers are correct. And what that tells me is, first of all, they've probably learned somewhere that when they see this kind of response, all answers are correct, that they think that that's typically the right answer. And then some students obviously don't understand the difference between a sole proprietorship, a partnership, and a corporation in terms of legal entity. So it gives me an opportunity to teach this to the students. And as I continue to scroll down, I can see the data for each question. And I do this in front of the class. I go through this, and it's an opportunity to share with them and recap some of the key information from the quiz where they may have missed some answers, and make sure that everybody's on the same page and understands it. It even gives me the responses to the short answer questions. So a great opportunity for me to highlight a really good answer for the rest of the class, in front of the class, without seeing anybody's name there. And again, for the bottom one as well, I can see all of the responses, and I can share these with the students, and I can show them how certain students answer the question in a way that's easier to mark as well. So a great opportunity to share really important information with students in a very easy way. So I hope you take the time to create some quizzes in D2L and play with it a little bit. I think you'll find it a really useful tool and a great way to inform your practice.